Good morning.
Hi, everybody.
Good day.
Good day to you, sir.
Lysandra is feeling pretty silly today. You're what?
I just feel hyper. I had espresso as my first cup of coffee today. Instead of like just plain black coffee, I had espresso with a little bit of sugar in it even. Because I was like, you know what? Treat yourself.
So you're just ready to go today.
Yeah,
She's
I'm
gonna
feeling
be
like
amped up.
Actually, the truth is I'm like, okay, I have so much to do. I want to hurry up and get everything done.
Yeah.
And I have the energy to do it right now. So let's hope that I have the energy after this podcast is over.
She's gonna crash.
I'm probably going to crash. I don't usually have espresso, and I don't usually have sugar in my coffee. So
we'll see what happens
here we go.
And you just got back into town, right?
I did. Well,
where'd you go?
Yeah, just last weekend. I went to Maryland, to Baltimore, and for a conference, and it was called She Works His Way, the Narrow Conference, and it was really, really good. She Works His Way is a good podcast, so if any of you ladies out there are looking for podcasts, the podcast is good. They put out some good material. What
does it mean, She Works His Way? What is that?
It's basically if you are a Christian woman who works. So I think that it really is geared to like entrepreneurs or business women.
Okay.
But at the same time, they totally recognize like if you stay at home with your kids all day, you are absolutely working. So the whole point is honoring God in your work, whatever your work is.
Okay.
And they have a lot of good content. They also are very biblically based and very Jesus-centered. So I loved it. It was great.
Okay, cool.
I plan to go to another conference sometime, and I'm going to bring friends. I'm going to totally just be like, all right, who's with me?
Yeah, who wants to work his way with me?
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome.
So it was good to be gone as far as, I'm glad it was only a 24-hour. I was only gone for what, 24 hours? Well.
Almost 48.
Almost 48 hours. That's right. It was like 2 days, but
yeah.
One night. And I was glad it was that short because I have a really hard time being away from the family. And I was ready to go back home and be with my family again. But I'm glad that I went. It was a right choice.
Time with friend and go to a conference.
Great friend.
I'm glad you were able to go.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Me and the girls, while you were gone, explored a new state park, did some hiking, and saw some wild horses and some gators and other stuff.
It was a good daddy-daughter opportunity for you guys.
Saw what is called a cow ant. I've never seen one before, and we were out hiking and came across the cow ant, and it was like a bright orangish color, so I didn't touch it. We stayed clear of it, and then found out like it would really like put you in a bad position if it bit you.
Crazy. Never even heard of it.
No, I didn't either. So learning all kinds of new things here.
Oddly enough, we don't have cow ants in Iowa. There's a lot of cows, but no cow ants.
That is weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently here in Florida, we got them.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready to get on to today's episode?
I am. Let's do it. 135, baby.
135. Let's gather around, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Hyper.
Hey-o. Hello and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 135 of the Family Meeting podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We're glad you're with us.
Hey.
On today's episode, we're talking about self-preservation in marriage compared to self-sacrifice.
Okay.
This comes up in your marriage more than you realize.
Oh, yeah. And it's one of those things that really helps you to understand why you need a relationship refresh.
Ah, I see what you're doing here.
Because we easily fall into that self-preservation. I mean, that's really taught in our society today, is to look out for yourself, self-care and all that. We're not saying self-care is wrong, but it's often taken to a negative extreme. And so what we need to do is we need to get recentered, refocused, and that's why we need you and want you to join us July 21st and 22nd of 2023 in beautiful Orlando, Florida. You can go get your tickets for just $25 a person and make reservations at the Beautiful Point Resort for less than $100 plus taxes and fees.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. It's a 2-day conference, Friday evening into Saturday. We'll have opportunities for you to date your spouse.
Yeah.
That's some of my favorite part.
Some
Getting
of
to
my
date
favorite
you.
part is spending time alone together, but doing that while exploring some different restaurants in Orlando.
Yeah, Thomas's thing is like restaurants. Like, where are we going to eat?
There's so many good restaurants out there to try. It's not
Yes.
like some places you go where it's all chain stuff, and there's just so many different things to try.
Yeah.
So make that a part of your trip.
Mm-hmm.
Check out some great places with us. Now, talking about and comparing self-preservation to self-sacrifice in your relationships, and it's the most natural thing for us to protect ourselves.
Yes.
Our default when we're born is to take care of yourself first.
Yes, it is.
And when I think of this word self-preservation, it takes me back to a moment in my life and in our relationship that I'm not exactly proud of. I feel shame.
Yeah. Well, you should.
It's not my best moment as a man, as a husband, as your love.
Or as really a human.
Yeah.
Any human in the world would react better than you
No,
did.
that's not true, because what
No?
I did was the natural human thing to do.
Okay.
Self-preservation.
I don't know, but like, I mean...
No, that's the normal human thing to do, is to preserve ourselves. So
Okay. All right. I guess that is true.
absolutely love the beach. It's my favorite place in the world to go. And we lived on the Gulf Coast for a while and absolutely loved it.
Right after getting married.
And we moved back to Iowa, and we would vacation once a year ish to back down to see the coast. And Lysandra is very thoughtful, but in a lot of ways. She's thoughtful in her care of me, but also in the care of our finances. So it's not always cheap to make a trip to the coast from Iowa. So when did you go to Lake Michigan?
Oh, like growing up as a child. Then, so I'd been to Lake Michigan numerous times. I have no idea how many. But then we went, it was my mom, my sister, and all of us are girls. We went on a girls' like weekend trip to stay in a camper on Lake Michigan, and it was awesome.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that was I think that's what you're thinking of.
So you went to stay, and you came back, and you said, listen, you are going to love it. It is just like being at the ocean.
Listen, I was trying to sell it. Because I wanted Thomas to accept a cheaper vacation where we could like camp by Lake Michigan rather than a much more expensive vacation comparatively. Driving all the way to Alabama and, all that.
But
way.
here's the thing.
It was the gas, the wear and tear,
The way that she sold it, it immediately made me defensive.
Yes.
I'm like, there's no way. If you would have come back and said, you know what, it's pretty similar. But to say it's exactly like going to the
It's
ocean.
like, you're going to love it. It's just like the ocean.
And so we make plans to go there, and I'm immediately like skeptical. I just don't think there's any way it can compare. It's a lake.
Your attitude wasn't great on the way there.
It was not. It's a lake versus the ocean. So we go, and I get there, and there's sand everywhere. And of course, it's Lake Michigan. It's large. You cannot see all the way across it.
This is the Dune State Park, by the way, for anybody who wants to go.
I'll admit, it looks like the coast. It looks like the coast. The smell is not the same as the salt air and all that, but it looks like the coast. And one other thing that I think it's important for people to know is I am deathly afraid of sharks.
Yes.
So living on the Gulf Coast for a while before we moved back to Iowa, I'd had some up-close encounters with some sharks. Never where my life or anything I felt was in danger, but just some close calls enough to know, hey, they're here. No matter how deep you go on the Gulf Coast or even on the Atlantic or the Pacific, they're right there. Shallow, deep, it doesn't matter. And but we're up here at Lake Michigan, and we go out in the water, which I don't do. I don't do in the ocean. I don't do the Gulf. Very rarely. My kids will, every once in a while, will get me to go in. But I just don't do it because of my fear. So in Lake Michigan, we're out there, we're swimming, we're having a great time, we're talking, we're laughing. And I'll admit, I forgot where I was.
Which I think proves my point that it was so similar to the ocean. So I really think
I agree.
That's the end of the story.
I agree. I wish that was the end of the story. But I forgot where I was. Mm-hmm. And we're talking and we're laughing and we're having a great time.
Swimming with the kids.
And all of a sudden, I see a shark fin come and break the water, the top of the water. Mm-hmm. And I lose my mind. Mm-hmm. And I pushed Lysandra. I pushed Lysandra towards the shark. And I started as quickly as possible making my way to shore. Mm-hmm. Peter was the first person other than Jesus to walk on the water. I think I was second.
Yeah, right.
It was,
it was
I was going fast to get out of there.
Yeah.
And then, because we're a ways out from shore. And about halfway back to shore, my mind catches up with the rest of me. And I realize I'm on Lake Michigan. There's no way this can be a shark. Mm-hmm. But the damage was already done. I turn around. I see my wife really frustrated, like, what in the world is wrong with you? And I see a kid who had been swimming out further than us. They were under the water, and the heel of their foot came above the water, and I swore it was a shark fin. Mm-hmm. I really did. But there was that self-preservation. I didn't even think about it. Mm-hmm. I just pushed Lysandra, and I was gone.
This really gives us a little bit of a peek into your true character.
Yeah, I think so. And I've said this before. When it comes to large animals, I'm every person for themselves.
Yeah, he's not my protector when it comes to big animals.
You're on your own. If it's any human, I will fight any human to death. I do not care. Yeah. I'm not afraid of any human when it comes to that. I will have Lysandra stand behind me. There's been times where we've been in some situations out in public with Lysandra and the girls. One time we were at a mall, I forget what town, and a fight broke out at a store. And I just made sure they were all on the other side of me, and we kind of walked our way past what was happening. Yeah. I'm not afraid of any human. But you get me around large animals, or especially sharks, like I lose all sense of everything. But that was it. Like,
that is your self-preservation because it is your nature to protect yourself. And that's true of everyone. All of us have that nature to protect ourselves. And our first thought every time is, how is this going to affect me? Every situation.
Yeah.
Every situation is, how will this affect me? And why is that? Because we're born with a sin nature. It's who we are. At the heart of who we are is our sin nature.
You're right. You're definitely right. You want to continue with that thought, or?
Yes, I do. But we break God's rules. We are selfish people, and we see that in Psalm 51:5. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin my mother conceived me. In the very moment that we were born in sin. We have a sin nature.
Well, and Romans 5:12 tells us this. Therefore, just as through one man sin entered into the world, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all have sinned. Mm-hmm. So we were born with a sin nature, but we also choose to act upon that sin nature. So we're all sinners by choice. And I like how Paul put it in Ephesians 5:29. We're talking about this self-preservation, this selfishness, self-centeredness that is within each of us. He said this in Ephesians 5:29. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it. That's what he says about us.
Yeah, we're selfish.
No one has to tell you to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. We naturally do that. No one told me, hey, there's a shark. Watch out for yourself. That was just innate nature within me. Mm-hmm. Every person for themselves. There was no like women and children first. I was not even concerned about that at that point.
I'm curious what would have happened if we were all on the Titanic, babe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
Because we're talking about like getting in the water with sharks.
Yeah. I honestly don't even want to think about it.
I don't either. But we can see our sin nature and our self-preservation starts at the very beginning, even in our teeny tiny little lives. Think about a little baby. And if you are parents listening to our podcast, you know what the baby days were like, right?
Oh, yeah.
And even we can see a sin nature in a baby. So we went away after Easter for 2 nights to a hotel with a pool just to give the kids a little break from ministry and work.
Easter is such a busy season for us.
Yep, it's really busy. And our kids work just as hard as we do. I mean...
Oh, yeah. They work
right alongside
hard,
us, at
yes.
least, let me say. And so we like to do something special for them every year after Easter, and that was something that we did this time. So we're at the pool, and Violet and you actually were swimming together with... She had her goggles on. It was the cutest little thing. But
Yep.
She's trying to get Daddy to learn how to do flips and stuff. You would usually get stuck halfway around.
I'm not the most agile person.
No, you aren't, but it was pretty
Especially
funny.
in the water.
So I was enjoying watching them. But this loud screaming caught my attention. So, of course, I stopped watching my kid.
The
and started
loud
watching that.
screaming caught everyone's attention.
It did. The whole pool area was like,
It was
what's
not
happening?
that large of a pool.
Well, it was this little baby girl. And she was, of course, the cutest little thing. Little curls, little teeny tiny bathing suit. It was with her swim diaper. It was so cute. You know how cute they are, guys. And she's precious, but she's probably not even a year, maybe a year, a little after, over a year. But her grandma was holding her but near the pool. And her daddy was in the pool swimming with other little children. And she did not want grandma. She wanted her daddy. And her self-preservation kicked in. And she starts screaming and kicking her grandma, trying to get to her daddy. So as she's squirming and throwing this huge fit, her dad starts to come over because she almost jumped out of her grandma's arms. So Daddy comes swimming over, held out his hands, and she practically leapt out of her grandma's arms into her dad's arms, screaming the whole way. And the second she reached her dad's arms, she stopped screaming and started giggling.
Oh.
Yeah. She, at 1 year old, is completely consumed with getting her own way, and she will do whatever it takes to get her own way. And you know what? You're the same way, and so am I.
Knows how to get it and manipulate the situation.
Absolutely. She knew exactly what to do. And you can see it in little children when they play. You know, that sin nature. It's not something that's taught. Nobody has to teach us how to take care of ourselves. We all are focused on that from the very beginning because it's in us. Think about little children stealing toys, throwing fits to get what they want.
I taught our girls to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you did, I guess, by example? Or
I
what?
sat down when they were infants and said, this is how you steal toys.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you throw
I don't
fits.
think
And I
you
showed
did.
them. I got down and I screamed and I hit the floor.
Yeah. Actually, that sounds like something you would do, but I don't think you did that. And you know what? As we grow, we're the same way. Sometimes we hide our fits a little bit better, or we turn them into manipulations to get what we want, and they look a little more mature. But the truth is, it's the same thing. We are just throwing a fit to get our way. And sometimes our selfishness is blatantly obvious.
Oh, yeah.
where I have seen grown adults throw a straight up fit.
Yeah.
I have seen them slam doors, throw things, scream to get their way.
You've never done that.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, I guess you have.
I have. You have. We've seen other people.
Well, if Lysandra's done it, you know everybody's done it.
Everybody's done it. We're all sinful, and we all are about self-preservation.
And even those people that we look up to and we, respect them because of their leadership position, their faith, or whatever else, they're still prone to this conflict that is within us between self-preservation and self-sacrifice in our relationship. I mean, we see examples in Scripture as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about some of the most well-known people that their lives are recorded for us in the Bible. What about Abram, who later becomes Abraham? Okay, he's often talked about as a father of the faith, mm-hmm. and especially of the Jewish faith and the Jewish nation. And but even though he was a man of great faith, he still had issues. He still had problems that came through. And my phone's talking to me. It's like, okay. It's like, good point.
Yeah.
Good point. And in Genesis chapter number 12, we're reading about Abram and a situation that came up between him and his wife Sarai that really shows that selfishness come out of him. In Genesis chapter number 12, verse number 10, it says this: Now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarai his wife. Now notice what he says. In verse 12, this is something, guys, you need to learn to say to your wife. I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance. So guys, make sure you learn from him. Tell your wife she's beautiful. When you see her, and just try to notice her. Notice how she looks in different outfits. Let her know she looks good.
So basically, we want to look at the life of Abram, and we want to take the good things and implement them, and learn from the bad things, and understand that that's a warning not to do.
That's true from everybody in life.
Isn't it, though?
But he doesn't stop the conversation there. It says, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. So he's looking at his wife saying, man, you are so good looking that when we get down there, they're going to want to have you. So in order to get to you, they're going to kill me because you're my wife. So verse 13 says, say you are my sister. This is what he's telling his wife. Say you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake. So he comes up with this situation and it's there is some truth in what he's saying.
Right.
They don't have the same exact parents, but
they're half siblings.
It says here, hey, tell him you're my sister, and that way my life will be spared. So notice what his priority is.
Yeah.
His priority is the same as mine was on Lake Michigan.
Uh-huh.
Me first. Mm-hmm. My life is what matters and what needs to be spared. So do this thing for me so that my life will be okay. And you notice his only thought is about himself here. He's not concerned with what will happen to his wife. He's not concerned about the potential danger that he is putting her in. And so we get to verse 14. When Abraham entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. So notice what takes place there. Now she's brought into Pharaoh's house. She's brought away from the protection of her husband because he's concerned with himself. And
I feel like it's important to note that this doesn't mean that Pharaoh fell in love with her and he had a beautiful wedding ceremony and he wants to provide for her and take care of her. I mean, this is not a good situation. She is being brought in there to basically bear him children. So it's not like she's getting some sort of secondary fairy tale. This is a really dangerous, bad situation for her.
And so she's brought into Pharaoh's house now, and anything could happen to her.
Yeah.
She could be raped. She could be taken advantage of. All this kind of stuff that could happen to her because her husband is more concerned with his own self-preservation than taking care of his wife, of protecting her like he's supposed to as a husband. And often as husbands, as wives, we're looking out for number one. Mm-hmm. We're looking to preserve ourselves, and it comes out in a lot of different ways here. And so you have a situation here where even those people that we look up to in the faith and in the Bible, their humanity came forth. We all have that within us. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that's a good warning, just to watch out for, those people who you look up to, and there are people that you respect, and that's good. It's good to have people like that in your life, but understand that no one is perfect, and don't be putting people up on a pedestal. That we've all got problems, every single one of us, right? But the way that he is treating his wife is the exact opposite of how we're supposed to love our family. Let's look in the New Testament. Okay, so that's in the Old Testament. That is in Genesis. We're going to look into Ephesians and see what the Apostle Paul wrote about marriage. So listen to Ephesians 5:25 through 30. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Does that sound like what Abram did in Genesis?
No, it does not sound like what I did on Lake Michigan either.
No, it does not. It does not. Jesus loved the church so much that he gave the ultimate sacrifice, his very own life. He gave himself up for us. Why? That he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of the water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. The whole purpose of Jesus sacrificing for us is to make us better for our own good.
Yeah.
And it's not about our good, like, oh, that your life may be perfect, but that we might be sanctified, that we might be more Christ-like, that we might live a more godly life and be pleasing to God. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body. So you think about that. We all take care of ourselves. Nobody makes you eat when you're hungry.
No.
If you are a normal grown adult, you're eating when you get hungry. I know that there are some crazies out there who are like, oops, it's 8:00 at night and I forgot to eat.
Well, that's
that is not us.
Like yesterday, we were at a paint job, and we finished up around 2:00 or so.
When we left, it was 2:30.
Hadn't eaten breakfast, hadn't had lunch, and I'm literally like, I want to eat now. We're 30 minutes or more away from the house. So I'm like, let's just stop somewhere. Let's stop at Publix, get some fried chicken.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, we'll be all right.
Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm hungry. I need to get some food.
I was like, oh, okay. I guess so.
Which, by the way, if you've not had Publix fried chicken,
wow, right?
do yourself a favor. Go get it.
It's a go-to when we don't have enough time to cook. Okay, so we all take care of ourselves. We all feed ourselves. We all take care of our own bodies. Nobody has to remind us to do that because we are naturally taking care of ourselves. But what God is saying here is that's not how I want you to be. I want you to be like my son Jesus. I want you to be like him, where he wasn't concerned about self-preservation whatsoever. He was concerned about you and me. He wanted to see you reconciled to God, so he put himself last to the extreme that he laid down his life for you. Now, this is interesting, though, because a lot of us, when we think about Jesus' sacrifice, we immediately are like, we go to the ultimate sacrifice, like, wow, he died for us.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's awesome. He did die for us. But his self-sacrifice didn't start at the cross. That was kind of more so the end of his self-sacrifice. The beginning of his self-sacrifice was when he decided that he would leave heaven. You think about that. Heaven was perfect. There was nothing, no pain, no headaches, no tired, no hunger, no smells, like negative smells. It was perfection. And he left perfection because he loved us. He sacrificed, self-sacrifice in every sense of the word.
And it wasn't just the fact that he left heaven, is he lived a life of self-sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Just the 33 and a half years that he lived on this earth was about self-sacrificing for us. Mm-hmm. And often we will say things, and we even believe them, that, hey, I would die for you. You know, we're like Peter. Mm-hmm. We say to our spouse, I would die for you. Like, some of you are listening to my story about the shark and are like, babe, I would totally fight that shark for you and let you get away. And it's easy to say that until you're faced with the shark, who happens to be a kid's foot. But that's besides the story. And we often say that to our spouse, like, I would sacrifice myself for you. I would die for you. Mm-hmm. But the question is, would you live a life of self-sacrifice?
Yes.
For your spouse?
Right.
And that's what we're going to get into here, because Jesus didn't just die for us. He lived a life of self-sacrifice for us. And marriage isn't about how your spouse can make you happy. It's about sacrificing for their good. Fighting for yourself is natural for you. But listen, that's going to ruin your marriage.
Yeah.
I think about what the Apostle Paul wrote to the Philippians in Philippians chapter number 2. And some of these verses are very familiar for some of you who go to church. They may not be for some other of you. But listen to what he wrote here. In verse 3, it says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit. In other words, you and I, selfishness, self-preservation is not to have a part of our life as a Christian. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others. So it says, hey, you are to put others first. Not to live a life of self-preservation. You're to live a life of self-sacrifice. And it's not just in your relationship with your spouse, but all relationships. We're to live that way. And then he goes on and he writes those famous words that many of us know from church. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Right. And so you see, he says, hey, you're to live a life of self-sacrifice, not self-preservation. And then he gives Jesus, once again, as the ultimate example of what that looks like in our day-to-day lives.
Now, if you have listened to the Family Meeting podcast for any amount of time, you know that we like to give out practical tips. We want you to be able to take the things that we're giving you, the information that we're telling you, maybe the philosophies that we're introducing or relaying from the Bible, and we want to give you ways to actually put that into practice. Because like Thomas said, we can say all the time, like, oh, I would die for you. I would die for you. But it's like that meme where it says like, I would die for any of my siblings, but I absolutely won't walk downstairs and get them a glass of water. I messed that up, but it's something like that, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So it's that same idea. Like, okay, but will you live for them? So we're going to give you some practical tips on how you can actually put this into practice, and you can live a life of self-sacrifice for your spouse. Okay, here's your first one that we're going to give to you. Listen to what they want. So you're going to listen to what your spouse wants. What do they want to do with their day off? You know, a lot of times we don't really care what they want to do. They have a day off. We've got a honey-do list.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. And that's not just men. It could be women. Okay. Like sometimes Thomas has a honey-do list for me.
Yeah. Usually there's this one thing on it and it's my name.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, everybody. Okay. Pretend that didn't happen. What do they want to do together? Okay.
I'm liking this.
Like, do they want to go for a walk or not? You know,
yeah.
This is unfair because last night we had a little mini date night.
Yes.
And we were both too tired to go out, so we had a date night in. And I told him, I was like, okay, we can watch TV for a little bit, but then I want to go for a walk. I don't want to just watch TV for the rest of the night, although that's Thomas's dream date night.
Yeah. And I wholeheartedly agreed.
You agreed.
I was totally on board with it.
Yeah. And then when it was time for the walk, it was pouring rain.
It was pouring rain.
And now I'm not against walking in the rain, don't get me wrong. However, I was like not in the mood to get my hair all wet and then have to like go to sleep on wet hair. You know the deal. So we did not get to go for a walk.
Well, and be cold because it's not exactly, we're in Florida, but it wasn't exactly hot out.
Yeah, exactly. So we did not go. But anyway.
But you wanted to go for a walk. I did agree.
Yes, you did.
I was ready to go on a walk.
You were going to. We were going to go. And so you got to listen. What do they want to do when you are together? What do they want to do for their birthday? Like, do you even talk to them about what they want for their birthday or how they want to spend their birthday? You got to be listening for these things. What do they want from you? What kind of help do they want from you? Going
back to the birthday thing real quick before we move on. Isn't it funny how the day that should be about that person, we often make it about us instead? Mm-hmm. Right. Like, it just goes to show you how much we look out for ourselves first.
Oh, yeah.
Even on a day that, hey,
it's literally their day.
You think it would be obvious that would be their day. But no, often we make their birthdays about us.
And so it's a matter of listening. Yes, we need to listen to what they want, but it's also a matter of communication, asking some questions. You know, they might not have the desire or the ability to tell you what they want, but certainly you can ask them, hey, what would you like to do for your birthday? Oh, you've got this day off coming up and we don't have anything on the calendar. What do you want to do with your day off? You know, asking the questions and then paying attention to what they want. This is a way of self-sacrifice.
So here's another way to self-sacrifice. Participate in their hobbies.
Ugh.
To the extent they want you to.
Ah, this is good.
Yeah,
this is good
because
advice.
For some of you, they want you to be involved in their hobbies. Some of the hobbies they don't want you to, because you just ruin it. Let's be honest, you kill the fun. And this though goes a step further than allowing them to have their hobby. I mean, we all, to an extent, within reason, should be able to have our own hobbies. We have our own interests and all those sorts of things. But sacrificing to the point of participating in the hobby too, and finding fun in it. So if you're going to, like, let's say their hobby is golf. My hobby is not golf. Neither of us is golf. Say the hobby's golf, and they want you to come with them. And it's not necessarily that they want you to play. They want you to be with them while they're playing. So maybe you don't enjoy golf. You can ride along in the cart, right? Which you used to do that.
Yeah, when you were interested in golf, I did.
But if you go along and you complain the whole time, you talk about how hot it is and how bored you are and this or that the whole time, that's not you participating in the hobby. That's just you ruining it.
Right.
You're showing your self-preservation at that moment, not your self-sacrifice. So go along, watch them, talk about how good they are, ask questions about how you play the sport, why they do certain things or whatever. Find fun and enjoy doing that hobby together. That is a way that you can show self-sacrifice in your marriage and fight that self-preservation.
I like it. All right, how about this one? Ask what they think. Ask what they think. This is putting your spouse first. You're showing them you respect them enough to consider their opinion. Yeah. And I love this about Thomas. You know, you weren't like this at the beginning of our marriage, but you have changed into this. And I love this about you. When Thomas creates a graphic design now, a lot of times he'll send me a picture of it and say, what do you think? And that means so much to me because I'm not a graphic designer. That is not my gift. But there have been few times where I have said, like, the only thing is I feel like I can't see that word well enough or something. And you'll make a teeny tiny change based on my opinion. But that means a lot to me that you respect me enough to ask my opinion. So that's one example of what kinds of things we're talking about. But you can put yourself last and set your own self aside and your pride aside to just ask them what they think and consider their perspective. It might be about an argument. It might be about how you're handling something with your children. It might be about the way you're cooking. Like, what do you think? Do you think that this should be cooked longer or less? You know, whatever. Is this too spicy? Like, just asking some questions about their opinion on what they think on different things is a way to put them first and to be a little more self-sacrificing.
Well, and pride says, I know it all. I've got it all figured out. I can do anything. And
my way is best.
And oftentimes it's self-preservation that makes us not ask the question, right?
Right.
Because we don't want to hear that somebody else has a different opinion. We don't want to hear that it's not exactly the way that it should be.
Right. We don't want to hear that it could be better.
So asking that opinion, it does go a long way in showing that your spouse, you value them, you value their opinion and what they think. Here's another one. Make plans together and discuss all options. And this is something that we've had a shift in our marriage, and we've talked about this a couple times on the podcast because it's more of a recent shift. When we first got married, Lysandra didn't want to make plans. She didn't want to make choices. She wanted me to do it. Whether that was what we ate, how we spent our time off, all those, she just didn't want to think about it. And she changed over time, as we all do. And I had to learn to talk it through with her and make plans together. Hear their thoughts on how you should spend time. talk to them about what activities you want to do. Where should we go? With whom should we spend our time? Mm-hmm. When you plan together, you are not just thinking about yourself anymore. And see, that's that self-preservation. Because if you talk it through, you might end up having to do something you don't want to do and going where you don't want to go mm-hmm. and spending time with that couple, and you just don't enjoy spending time with them. But that's a life of self-sacrifice instead of self-preservation.
Mm-hmm. And this one goes right along with the last. That is, let them choose. And there are going to be multiple times in a week or even multiple times a day when you guys are not going to agree on a choice. It could be about anything.
Yeah. Where
to squeeze the toothpaste from. How to put the toilet paper roll on.
You always squeeze from the middle.
Stop it. I don't even want to talk to you right now. What time the kids go to bed. If you eat dinner at the dining room table or the kitchen island. I mean, the amount of places and times and opportunities for disagreements are just unending.
Yeah.
Okay, in a marriage. When this happens, when the disagreements happen or just the differences in opinion, rather than putting yourself first, let them pick. Let them make the choice. I really would like to eat at the dining room table. I know you want to eat at the island. You know what? You choose.
Yeah.
And then you go eat at the island and you don't have a crappy attitude. You have a positive attitude. TV, movies, activities, meals, restaurants, whether to eat out or eat in, whether to eat to go pick up the food or have it Uber Eats delivered because you don't agree on how much money that's going to cost you. Is it going to be more money in gas money going to pick it up, or is it going to be more money in paying them to come and drop it off and tip
more
them?
in paying them for sure.
I totally agree. But maybe you guys don't agree on this. Maybe this is an argument you're having. Whatever. Let them choose. Be self-sacrificing, not self-preserving.
It definitely costs more money. You're just paying. You're paying for the time,
the convenience. Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to spend the time to go out and come back.
Not all couples agree on how valuable their time is.
Oh, my time is very valuable.
Yeah,
I'm charging you a lot for my time.
Yeah, but you still won't pay Uber Eats.
No, I won't.
Your time is not that valuable, but to some couples it is.
Yeah.
So anyway. Well, we really got off
my
tangent there.
What I do is I talk about Uber eating it,
mm-hmm.
and then you'll go pick it up because you don't want to pay it.
Oh, you are the worst.
Not just a hat rack, my friends.
You are the worst.
How about this one?
Okay.
Put the phone down while they talk to you.
When will you start doing this?
I do this. I am currently practicing this.
I'm kidding. You're working really hard at this one.
It's a great way to put your spouse first.
Mm-hmm.
It shows that you value them more than whatever you're doing on your phone. It's a way to self-sacrifice, right? Because obviously you're interested, you're involved in whatever you're doing on your phone, and when somebody comes up to you, now you need to put it away. And I will just say this, whatever's going on in your phone, this is something I have to tell myself all the time. So I'm not just saying it to those of you who are listening. Whatever's going on in your phone or on my phone is not as important as your spouse.
Yes.
It's not as important as your kids, whatever you got going on. So just put the phone down while they're there.
Yeah. Yes.
Sacrifice whatever you're doing at the time, the game, the social media, the interest, the email, the work, the whatever
mm-hmm.
it is. Put it down and invest in the person that's right there in front of you.
And a way that I do this, so my girls and I have coffee almost every morning together in our living room, and it is valuable, cherished, precious time for me. There are times when I think like, oh, you know what? My appointment is such and such. I actually have enough time where I could sleep in an extra half hour. I choose not to sleep in an extra half hour so that I can have more time with my girls for coffee and just being with them.
Great example of self-sacrifice.
Yeah. So, but I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just trying to say like.
No, I'm just recognizing.
Oh, okay. But anyways, that's not even the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is this. I am so obsessed with my phone. I'm never playing games. I am never scrolling social media for no purpose. I always have a purpose for what I'm doing, whether it's I want to encourage someone, I want to know how to pray for someone. Like I'm legit, like social media is not an addiction for me. Like, oh, I just can't help but scroll it. I'm not like that. That's just not my thing. I'm obsessed with work. I'm obsessed with like purpose and
accomplishing things.
Yeah, I don't want to say that like encouraging someone is work, but I'm just saying like if it doesn't have a good purpose, I'm not interested in it. So I'm emailing, I'm responding to text messages, I'm setting up paint bids, like I'm doing valuable things on my phone. Yeah. And that's why I'm obsessed with my phone, because it is my avenue to efficient work. So what I have to do every time we have coffee in the morning is I take my phone and I put it in the kitchen, and we're in the living room. And it's on silent. So I don't know if there's notifications. I don't know what's going on. I'm not tempted to like put something on my grocery list. I'm not tempted to respond to an email or whatever, because that time with my girls is so valuable to me. And I also see that it is slipping away.
It's a great tip though.
Yeah. So put your phone far away. If it's not near you, you're not going to be as tempted to just like pick it up and do something quick. All right, here's one. Support their dreams as though they were your own. So yeah, we all get it. Like, sure, of course I would want to support my spouse's dreams. Of course I'm going to do that for them. But do you support their dreams as though they are your own? That's self-sacrifice.
That's taken to the next level.
Right? Self-preservation is focused on your own dreams. And how can I accomplish my own dreams? And if I change this and I do this, then I'm going to be closer to my dream, or that's going to set me up for success. But self-sacrifice puts others first. Yeah. So it says, all right, my dream is this. Their dream is that. So I'm going to rearrange my schedule so I can help with that rather than this. You make their dreams your dreams, and you actually do whatever you can do to help make their dreams become a reality. That's real self-sacrifice.
And here I've got the hardest one.
Okay.
For whatever reason, this is the hardest thing to do. The hardest way to self-sacrifice. It is the number one sign of self-preservation.
Okay.
The remote to the TV. That and the thermostat.
Meaningful gasp.
Yeah. Those two things are probably the greatest show of either self-sacrifice or self-preservation. Mm-hmm.
This is an area that Thomas has grown so much. And okay, so first of all, we have gone from first I'm going to talk about the temperature, the thermostat.
Okay.
Okay, first I'm going to talk about that.
Okay.
We have gone from a button pushing thermostat to a digitally controlled one from his phone.
Yeah.
I do not have access to our thermostat that I know of, do I?
You can still change it from what's on the wall.
Okay, so I could go and actually... Oh, that's right. You showed me how to do that. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
it's probably best if you don't touch it, but...
What might happen?
You could end up messing up everything.
I thought you meant you'd get mad.
No, not at all.
When we first got married, me saying I was hot or cold and touching the thermostat, it was just not an option. Like, it wasn't allowed. Would you agree?
That's probably accurate.
Okay. You don't remember anything from our past.
It sounds like, accurate.
That was how it was. Like, it didn't matter if I was cold. If I was cold, you go put on more clothes. If I was hot, I take off clothes.
So usually I crank the heat.
Okay. But seriously, I mean, it was like I didn't even have a say in this. Now, what happened last night? Remember last night, I'm folding laundry in bed on our date night. That makes me look bad. This does not make me look bad.
Yeah, but it was something you wanted to do on our date night. So I was like, okay. It was fine.
When we couldn't do a walk because of rain, I was really disappointed. So I was like, well, then what can I do that I want to do? And it was laundry. So that's true. You got to watch TV in bed while I folded laundry with you. Anyway, and I'm folding this laundry and I was so hot. Like I think I started sweating. And I said to you, man, what's the temperature at? It's really hot in here. And you right away grabbed your phone and you turned it down.
The temperature was 72 degrees in the house.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, it's hot in here.
It was, I swear. But that's not the point. The point is, like, Thomas now, if I tell him that I'm hot or cold, he will adjust the thermostat.
Yes.
Which is awesome. So even though I'm not controlling it, I control the one who is controlling it. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
I'm teasing.
Yeah.
But you care about how I feel enough to change it. And that is self-sacrificing, whereas you used to only care about yourself.
And the girls will do that sometimes too. Like they'll text me because they don't know how to use what's on the wall.
Yeah. So if you're gone.
So well, even if I'm here, they'll text me and like, Daddy, I'm hot, or Daddy, I'm cold, or.
I'm curious to know how many families text each other in the same house.
Oh, everybody does.
Everybody's got to do it. I mean, like, because you'll be at your desk working and they will text you
from
the living room.
That's the thermostat. The remote is still the hardest thing. Mm-hmm. We work very hard to only watch together things that we enjoy. Mm-hmm. So we found some things that we really enjoy watching together. There are sports things and stuff like that I want to watch that she doesn't want to watch. So sometimes I'll watch on my phone and I'll put my headphones in so she can watch whatever she wants to on that big TV. And then there's just stuff that she loves to watch that I just don't care anything about, like Murder, She Wrote. I don't care. I don't want to watch that. Mm-hmm. It's like torture. Mm-hmm. I think I'd rather be eaten by sharks than watch that.
I would like for you to be eaten by sharks.
Yeah.
So that I can watch Murder, She Wrote anytime I want.
But there's still times where I let it, you decide.
Yeah, there are times. And it's really nice. And
I don't know if there's ever times where you watch sports with me anymore.
No, but if you're watching something, usually I'll put in my... No, I used to put in my earbuds, but I know what happened. You don't mind having earbuds in, and I hate having earbuds in. So if we want to watch different things at the same time, you usually put your earbuds in because it doesn't bother your ears.
The only exception would be like Iowa football.
Yeah, which I don't mind. You
Typically, Iowa football I watch on the big TV, and then you would use your phone.
I'll put in my headphones and watch something on my phone.
But we kind of work with each other on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But that remote's a hard one.
Yeah, that is tough.
To give up.
Mm-hmm. Consider their schedule when making your own schedule. When we're self-focused, we only consider our own convenience. So it's not just like, I'm not just talking about sacrificing when he wants to do this with your schedule and you want to do this with your schedule. So you self-sacrifice and you let him choose the schedule. I'm talking about like, it would just be more convenient if you did that an hour later so that it would be easier for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just talking about convenience and just considering their schedule and what they have going on. What about their plans? What's going on with their calendar? So think about what they have going on and be considerate of that and plan your schedule around theirs.
So here's a few things. Helping them achieve their goals. So they've got goals. Helping them to achieve it. Similar to the dream thing that you were talking about, making their dreams. Helping them to accomplish their goals. Listen to their stories. Mm-hmm. Pay attention to what they're telling you, what they're trying to talk about. Take time for them. Lysandra.
Yes.
Take time for them.
I wasn't listening.
Yeah. You weren't listening to the story I'm telling. And these are just some practical ways to put yourself last while putting your spouse first. And we could go on and on. Like we talked about, the opportunities for you to show self-sacrifice versus self-preservation in your house and in your relationships it's pretty much endless. Mm-hmm. But if you think about Abram's life that we talked about a little while ago, if Abram had practiced this kind of living, his wife would never have been put in such a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Never would have been put into this thing where she has Pharaoh take her into his house and where anything could happen to her. So think about the ways that you're showing self-preservation versus self-sacrifice. And we want to encourage you to have a family meeting tonight and just sit down as a couple and discuss ways that you're practicing self-preservation in your home right now. You know, where am I showing self-preservation? Where is that coming out? And having a conversation with your spouse really helps get an honest view and opinion of you. Because we often have these blind spots when it comes to our own faults and shortcomings. But I guarantee you one thing. Your spouse does not have those blind spots towards you.
And truth.
They know exactly where you're showing self-preservation. Mm-hmm. Where, hey, you know, every time you come home, you just grab the remote, no matter what's on, no matter what we're doing or watching, and you turn the channel.
Yeah.
Okay, that's self-preservation. I used to be that way. Mm-hmm. Maybe it has to do with the car radio. Maybe it is the thermostat.
Ooh, yeah.
Maybe it's about whatever the plans are, and everybody has to drop plans for whatever you feel like doing at the time.
The AC and heating in the car.
Yeah, thank God that they've got the climate control now in the newer ones where you can have your side and I can have mine.
Nothing shows more clearly that we are all selfish people than the fact that we have to have 2 different controllers in one minivan.
Well, more than that, because you get
3.
the back seat now.
Yeah.
So what are the ways where I'm showing self-preservation? Now, have a thoughtful conversation. Don't use this as a time to slam and throw things in people's faces. That's not going to help the relationship. So just be thoughtful and careful about how you answer those questions. But also don't be defensive about what your spouse says. Don't let the self-preservation kick in the self-preservation talk. And then talk about some ways that you show self-sacrifice. Have a positive. What are some ways where you've taken some steps? We've shared a couple ways where I've taken some steps in my life of self-sacrifice. Lysandra has. She just tends to live a life towards self-sacrifice. But what are some ways where you've grown? Like, hey, I noticed that you've really grown in this area, and you are self-sacrificing. I appreciate that. What are some other steps that you can continue to take? So just have a conversation about that. Are you showing self-preservation, which is destructive to your relationship, or are you living the life of self-sacrifice that we are called to live?
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information to be helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or you can email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
We want to encourage you to join us for our next family meeting because this is an important one. We're going to talk about the danger. We're going to talk about the harm that sexual sin will do to our marriage relationship. So you don't want to miss this one. Make sure that you tune in next week as we talk about sexual sin.
Well, and the topic of next week's episode reminds me that with episode 141 coming up, we're doing a Q&A on sex.
Right.
So we already gave the information where you can contact us. If you have a question you would like us to answer and kind of broach a certain topic, we've had some questions come in already through Instagram.
They are good questions, and they are going to make us think.
So
you guys are doing great.
Throw us your questions. We've still got some time to get those in before we have that Q&A. I think it'll be very helpful for you, but we want to look at some of the dangers next time. That it could do to your marriage. So looking forward to that conversation together. Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
Baby.
We want you to put your questions in. What are the questions you have? What do you want us to talk about when it comes to sex? Some things you were thinking, talking about with your spouse or whatever. Feel free to shoot those in.
Yeah, we're not scared.
Nothing is off the table.
Everything is on the table.
Yes.
Even sex.
Yeah, that's true. It could be.
Just sanitize.
So if you have a conversation, yeah, very much so. If you have a question, though, just kind of throw that in there, and we'll get that to you. With that, we are signing off. We'll see you next time.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.